I bet you can hear me now, right? There we go. You guys can hear me now, huh? All right. So, but you can hear me now, right? Is it echoey like that? There we go. You guys can hear me now, huh? Oh, it's echoey for me. All right. So, but you can hear me now, right? Is it echoey like that? There we go. Where is it also echoey? Hold on. Oh, it's echoey for me. All right. So, there's too many of these open. Is it echoey like that? There we go. Where is it also echoey? Hold on. Oh, it's echoey for me. All right. So, there's too many of these open. Okay, there we go. Sorry, everyone. All right, so now that you can hear me, can you guys just verify that you can hear me? Can you all hear me clearly now? Okay, sweet. So I can see all your comments too. This is perfect. This is what we didn't have last time when I did YouTube Live, was the ability to see all your comments live. And now that I can do that, this, that, and the other can be taken care of when they go wrong. Woo! All right. So, yeah. So I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. This week has been crazy. My wife's been facing all sorts of health challenges, and we've had to just really kind of push things off of our table and just focus on those. And we've been really rewarded with what we've been doing. And so on one hand, yes, this week has been crazy. There's been some technical issues today, but I'm ecstatic because the things that we've been doing have been working like dramatically. So if you have had my wife in your thoughts, and many of you have, thank you so much. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I'm so frazzled. Oh man. So all right, so tech stuff does happen. I agree. So everyone's here. We're all seeing it. I've got your comments here. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna shift this over to the side so I can see this. All right. Lip reading, Emanuela. That's awesome. All right, sweet. Everyone's with us. Very good. Excellent. All right. Yes, no, you all have been sending healing vibes, and they really have been working. I'm grabbing water. It really has been working. We've also been doing some interesting protocols that we'll talk about at some point. But yeah, thank you so much. Keep it up. Keep up the health, the healing vibes and the prayers, because they are helping. So, but that's part of the reason why I haven't been as present. You know what I mean? I've been kind of all over the place lately, in the past week especially. So, all right. All right. I'm ready to start over. All right. So the first thing that we were talking about was how awesome it is to use the workbook. So many of the questions get answered in the workbook, and it's easy to see the answers because it's condensed. So when you go to the soil section, all the composting, different possibilities, and then the recipes and how-tos, they're all right here. And so one of the first questions was about, the IMO preps and about IMO 3, and could we use it as a compost tea? And it says right here, can be used to make a compost tea for foliar application in soil soaking. So it absolutely can. It does not get up to 130 to 140, right? Like IMO 5 does. And that might be what you were thinking of. But but no, you can use it as a compost tea. And then the other question that you had was about bokashi. So after you ferment the bokashi, you absolutely can just leave it there, just sealed up and it's ready to roll. Just leave it there, and it will be fine. And if it's not too hot there, it's not too cold. Cooler slows down the reactions, but if it's too hot, it'll just speed up the reactions. But the idea is that it would stay for a while, many weeks, if not many months. So I that's my experience with bokashi, is that it just hangs in there, and EM hangs in there even longer. So yeah, they're very easy to keep and store. That's one of the powerful things about it. All right, and then compost extract. So as I was pointing out here, when we gently water our compost, we get a compost extract. But what that means is that we really need to have it on a surface that's impermeable, and then we need to be able to direct and guide the water into something that we can collect it in. So that could be a tarp. That could be like a concrete area that goes down to a gutter, and then you've interrupted the gutter somehow. It really depends on your situation, what you got lying around, what you can make happen. But this is one of the ways to do it. All right. And then, okay, this one's a good one. Could people be unwittingly starting fires with mismanaged compost piles? Yes, they could be. If it gets anaerobic and then gets up to 185 degrees, it can't do that if you spray it with EM, right? You can't even get up to 130, 140 with EM. And so, yeah, you could manage it and make it so that it's safe. But at the same time, people, fires have started. I don't think there's like a direct correlation between any forest fires necessarily that we've ever had that were caused by compost heaps. I've never heard of that ever happening. There's lots of things that have happened, though. A lot of people trying to burn their own houses down to get the insurance money. That's very real. That's happened in California, in my area, repeatedly. So dumb human stuff is what most of those fires are started by, though there is a lot of mismanagement of the forest too, as we'll talk about. But on the flip side, though, we could start managing those forests using compost teas to heal those trees. As we'll talk about later in the course, there is a way to use compost teas to bring trees that seem dead even back from the brink and have them literally push like the eggs and the bark beetles out. Just shoot them out and just cure itself. So there's amazing things that can be done with compost to fight fires. And then, how would you build up soil around a river that is washing away? Okay. So why is the river washing away? Is my question. Because that's going to affect my answer. So I'll just play like scenarios with this. So let's say the water's moving too fast. Well, I'm going to try to create meander, which means I'm going to cause more erosion. Okay. Riparian restoration is not necessarily like other things. You're going to have to let, water do the work for you a lot of the time. And so if it's too fast, you're going to want to create meander, and that may create more erosion, more disturbance. And then that's going to take you installing maybe some hardscape in there to like break things up, slow things down, redirect things. And then maybe you're then planting along new areas, the new banks that you're establishing as you're slowing things down, creating meander. Maybe you're doing keyline and distributing water and having things that like one rock check dams here and there to lift the water level so that it hits the old floodplain connection so that it reaches all the water in your, all the roots in the floodplain in your area. And you're building up that, you're slowing the water, you're building up the water, soaking through everything. And so you're slowing the water down, you're lifting the water and spreading it out. So the flow now is less that goes on to the next rock dam because that water's been soaked up for, square mile in all directions or something. You know what I mean? Like it's been spread out through the floodplain. And now that water is less coming down through that actual like flow. And it's slower. So it's going to be taking less soil. And now you got the meander, it's even slower. And now you're planting trees in critical areas like willow, fast growing trees that are literally just going to set their roots down and start like almost cladding that soil, almost, hard protection and like holding that soil together so that it can start holding that bank together and preventing that erosion. And so there are other trees like that. I would look at your bioregions banks along undisturbed rivers and disturbed rivers, creeks, streams, and look at all the different variations and look at the succession. And then and then look at your, like the root structures, like go pull up a plant and check out its root structure. And the ones that are like, the clumpers, they're going to be tying up really loose soil. The ones that are going straight down, like just like a spike, they're breaking things up. And those might not be what you want. You might want the clumpers. You might want in some cases, you might even want the rhizome ones that sometimes can be difficult to get rid of. You might want bamboo. You might want, it depends on your situation, it depends on what you're doing, but do the research, find out what could work there, and then run through the possibilities and run through what could go wrong and then run through what all those 20-year, 10-year scenarios look like. Because a lot of people plant these trees and don't think about what they'll look like when they're 20, 30 feet tall, or if they want them to be managed to be 10 feet to 15 feet tall and what that would take, So let me just think for a moment. And you could be reintroducing species at the same time. You could be reintroducing beavers. You can be reintroducing birds and bats and all sorts of animals that would play into that ecosystem. I would look to do rewilding that pairs with those plants, pollinator boxes that pair with those plants. And I know it doesn't seem related to the erosion on the bank, but it is, because they will feed and nourish the plants on the bank. And as those plants are nourished, their roots go deeper, stronger, wider, more diverse. And they have a better diet, so they put out more nutrition, and so they get more of a response from the bacteria and fungi, which means there's a greater fungal hyphal network, which means more of an anchor, more slowing of the water, more storage of the water, more communication of nutrients. Dig into it, find out what, what you can do, how you can optimize what's going on. Because as you optimize, like they're literally doing more and more and more to help the stability of that bank. So from micro to macro, from the smallest players to the biggest players, to even functional things. Like you may decide to put a fence up, a temporary fence around that area to keep your cattle away from it, or wildlife away from it. You know what I mean? That's super pragmatic and maybe simple, but that might be what needs to happen for that particular area site issue. Um, I mean, like, the reason I say that is because in Yosemite, what came to me is Yosemite. They brought the wolves back to get the deer off the edges of the banks of the rivers and the streams, so that the vegetation would come back. This was all trying to help the beavers. And there's some evidence that they helped them. There's some evidence that they didn't completely reverse the problem, which, a man-made problem isn't completely reversed when we just introduce a piece of the puzzle that once was there. There's more. There's more to it, and there's time, and there's momentum. Okay, so I mean, this is such an issue. You know what I mean? River soil being washed away soil being washed away around a river. It's such a big issue. I hope that I've given you some ideas to start with. I would say that reading "Let Water Do the Work" by Bill Zedek is a critical thing to read, and to also embrace his approach, which is really humble. He's been doing this for a long time. He sees everything he's doing as, theory and practice and exploration, because it's so early, and a lot of things he's done, he's the first doing it. And so he doesn't want to be like, well, this is the way to do it, because it's me just doing it. I don't know anyone else doing it. And you know what I mean? To a certain degree, though, there's David Roskin. There is Watershed Artisans. I want to say Craig Sponholzer. There are a lot of people, Jeremiah Martin. There are a lot of people who are now working on this, but for a long time, I think Bill felt like he was like alone in a lot of these studies and ideas that he had. But either way, he's really a humble guy, and you'll get that when you read his stuff and the way he talks about it. But he has done incredible things, and that's why he sticks really close to his case studies. But yeah, I think that if we take that humble attitude with water, because it's so powerful and can be nourishing and damaging equally, right? That we can find a pathway to restoration. We have to, right? And we can, especially if we start slowing things down and start letting nature demonstrate what's possible for us. So, I mean, that's the whole thing that we're doing, really, is that we're like bringing the life up and bringing the food, and we're like providing the situation, and we're hoping that it happens. And it's like, I got the inoculants and I got the food, and then the magic happens. But it's literally like they're doing the magic. Like all right, our bodies, right? We get the food, we put it into our bodies. We get the food, we put it into our bodies, and then the microbiology within us digests it, and then we digest what they release and make bioavailable to us. And so it's really this relationship, and we all need these relationships. All right, so something about AMF that I thought was really cool, our bustular mycorrhizal fungi, that I've been thinking about lately, is the fact that our bustular mycorrhizal fungi will release spores that are always unique. Like every time it does anything, it's unique. Because it has 800 to 1200 different nuclei, it's constantly always releasing new possibilities. So it's like a modulating keyboard, you know what I mean? Like where every sound is always like new. It's a perpetual modulation that's always improvising. You know what I mean? It's always improvising, except that it's improvising in response to the actual bioregion's secession and where it needs to go. So that's a dog. So there needs to be this understanding that AMF is not just unique to fungi, not just this like thing that, you know, has proven to us that the nuclei is not the brain of the cell. Of course, Bruce Lipton proved that decades ago. And he talks about it in the New Biology. But AMF shows that that they can release different species and different phyla within its spores. And so it's literally cueing the species and the secession of the soil as it appears and disappears and partners with over 90% of the plants on Earth and their roots, and is responsible for like glomalin in the soil, which is responsible for 20 to 30% of all the carbon sequestration, you know, in the soil, the sticky glue parts between the aggregates of the soil on the planet. Amazing. So this one fungi is doing all this. And then on top of it, it's so unique. And everyone's like, oh, every human is a unique human. Every human is a unique expression of a human, and every snowflake is unique. I'm not calling you a snowflake. But what I am saying is that each of us are a direct response to our environment because our parents were epigenetically expressing their response and their perspective and their environment, or the perspective of their environment, when we were created. So we all are literally direct responses to the environment, and we are a successionary step, not just literally in our family, but in the cultural environment and the literal natural environment we all are inescapably part of. And just like AMF is releasing constantly individuals that are in response to the secession, in response to what's needed out there in the world, of soil, of that ecosystem, so too are we. And what I've realized is like, that's who we are. We are these fungal beings, and we'll learn about that a lot more in this next week, which I'm really excited about. I hope you're excited about next week. Next week is going to be incredible. And this idea that we all are these fungal beings that are designed, our nature is to help promote spread of life, strengthen, stabilize, and progress the ecosystems that we interact with, the plants, the animals, the soil life, and everything in between. And so we are facilitators of life. And I really, and we are here to fulfill a purpose that's regenerative so that it can continue on into the next stage, into the next step in the succession. So it's also, you know, kind of not surprising that we have this huge connection metaphorically, literally, with the soil, because what we're eating is coming from the soil or consuming something from the soil. And what we digest, how we digest, is so similar to the environments of the soil, decomposition, anaerobic decomposition, absolutely too. It's all of these things. And that's why you do facultative anaerobic well, it's not decomposition, it's more fermentation, right? And so it's pre-decomposition, but it's like a stable state for a period of time in that state. So we're doing that, and it's helping us digest, you know? Yeah, it's really this connection that we have between ourselves and the soil. We're only going to find it deeper and deeper, and our reverence for the soil, understanding of the soil, the importance of the soil will only grow as time goes on, because it's not going to become irrelevant. The aquaponics, hydroponics, all the things that are trying to shift towards soilless growing are going to have to circle back, because the reality is, where are all those nutrients coming from for their aeroponics, their aquaponics, all this stuff? The reality is all those things are coming directly from the fossil fuel industry and the chem ag industry, or the big chem industry, Dow and all that kind of stuff. And so that's all, like, that story is over. I mean, we're reaching, peak plastic. I talked about this in the other live. You guys know that we're not recycling plastic anymore, right? Plastic is done. We're not recycling those anymore because Asia won't accept them. Part of it, I've heard, is because Trump and Asia are arguing, and Asia's like, oh, okay. And it's mostly China, you know what I mean, directing this, but it's not just China taking the plastic. It's more countries than that. So this is like really serious. I mean, the fact that we no longer can recycle plastic has widespread ramifications, and it really is just like a little indicator of what's all to come. We're going to hit peak plastic. We're going to hit peak this, that, and the other, and we're going to really have a problem. And we really need to get past plastic, and we really need to inoculate all of our systems with really healthy modalities. And that's why I believe that's why we're here. I believe that's why you're in this course. I believe that's why we're doing this, because we do have the answers, because what we are talking about is the best. And because it's the best, that's what people really want. And we're going to get there because it's the best. And, whether it's AI, that they give up control to in certain aspects in our society, and then they start learning regenerative methodologies, and then everything circles back to us, because I mean, it's so not just logical. I mean, once that information is fed into that system, it's inevitable. I mean, how could it not? It's the ultimate money saver, ultimate money return. It literally is the underpinning of everything. So I'm not so worried about that whole aspect of things. But the reality is that we must provide examples. We must be the catalyst for everyone, because the thing is, AI is just an extension of people. Everyone's fears about it are extending from the people. And so all these things are just, if we really inoculate the world with permaculture, then AI and all these other things will be inoculated too. So I really am a firm believer in starting with soil as well. I mean, my 5 steps to a regenerative future starts with building soil, because we are made of soil, even though we're fungal beings, right? What made the soil? I mean, even though we're soil beings, you know what I mean? Like, we're soil beings, even though we're like fungal beings, we're soil. And so, yeah, it really comes back down to soil always. Everything walking around, all the plants and animals, all will return to soil. All will be formed out of soil. All will be nourished by soil and participate in the cycles of the soil. And if you think about it, I mean, you look at the surface of the earth, right? That soil part is like the thinnest part, and like we are an extension of it. We only go about 6 to 7 feet, extending off of that, really, if you think about it. And of course, we get skyscrapers. We are high up in the sky, but realistically, the reality is, like, if we just take away all of those artifices of architecture and whatnot, and we have people just stand on the earth, it's like we literally are just this extra layer of biology on the planet. And then there's the soil, and then you go deeper, and And for miles and miles and miles deep into our planet, it is seeded with bacteria and fungi and life. This planet is vibrating with life deep, deep, deep within it. You can scorch the whole surface, but the bacteria and fungi that are 16 miles deep aren't going anywhere. This planet is seeded with life. It is not like Mars, where they're like, oh, and this could have happened and that could have happened. This planet, like, literally is seeded deep, 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 deep with life. So, yeah, this is a very special planet. We can't just, like, hit repeat buttons and, like, have things appear in our galaxy. We need to cherish this planet and that thin layer of soil, which is what all the beings that extend a little bit past it, those trees maybe go 100, 200, maybe hopefully 300, 400 feet. In the past, the canopy was much, much taller. So that is what John Liu will talk about later in the course. But all those things, those extensions, they rely upon that soil, that interface between the dynamo magnetism of our planet and the heat and all those kinds of things. And it's a thin layer, and we really need to respect it and start with that, because all potential arises out of that. It's like, why do we meditate and clear our mind? So that we can, like, arrive at that foundational space, right? And then start from there, feeling clear and connected. That's what the soil literally is for the earth. It goes always back down. It starts with zero, restarting over with soil, become any potential and any reality. And all the animals and all the organisms and all the plants, everything that's ever been has come out of the improvisation of life, building upon life. It's truly a miracle that we are even here, that we even exist. Truly is a miracle. Something I think about all the time. And as I learn more and more about soil and soil science and fungi and all these wonderful things, I'm empowered and feel more connected to all creation and all the creative, juices and energies that are within everything all around us. And I feel like that connection is real. And that's why people, who feel and study these things and have that higher understanding, their gardens grow better. The animals, respond to them differently and all sorts of things. So I want that kind of fluency and connection for you. I'm going to look now at your questions. All right. All right. Can't hear you. Let's see. Go down to when I fix that. All right. There we go. All right. Sweet. I'm glad everything is going well. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you got the books. Yay! And they arrived in London. Wonderful. Amazing. Thank you all for joining us from all over the world. I really appreciate it. It's dark here in London. It must be very dark. Thank you so much for joining us. It's amazing. Oh, Denise. Oh, well, I'm so glad that I could dive into that, Denise, with you at that higher level. And maybe that's why I kept trying to go deeper and deeper, because a lot of those things that I've mentioned before, but maybe this time I reached some of them in a different way. And those will serve you. Hope so. Could you provide some examples of where compost tea was used to shoot out bark beetles? Okay, so it's a video in the course that you can just skip ahead and go see. It is Todd. What's Todd's last name? Todd Salemi of Grow Organics. No, not groworganic.com. That's a different company. It's Organics Alive. That's what it is. So Todd Salemi of Organics Alive. It's almost 5 o'clock. It's dark here. So my mind is like, you're ready to relax. But no. So what happened was, they basically, the story goes like this. And we're going to go over this again and again and again and in more detail as we go. So this will just be the first time we talk about this. But this is something that I learned throughout filming. And, you'll see certain people don't give it away. They hint at it. And you're like, what do you mean? How? And you figure it out as the videos go, because I figured it out as the videos went, because they literally told me the answers. They all just told different pieces of the answer. And so you're going to see all this play out. But basically, this is how it works. If you have something that breaks down chitin-based life, you're going to have chitin digesting life right in there, right? And so that life, that decomposing life, that composting life, you can scale up and then spray on chitin-based organisms, molds, mildews, all the fungi, and then all the pests. Now, does this mean that your beneficials that are also chitin-based could be affected? Yes. So keep that in mind, but know that this is very, very powerful. So the story is really amazing. I don't want to ruin the story, Todd's story, but you should check out how he discovered this and how, something that they could get soaked in. They're spraying on trees. There's children like around. And meanwhile, like, it's non-toxic. They got sued over this because it killed the beetles. It melted the beetles. Beetles are chitin-based. Chitinase digests the chitinase is bacteria that digests chitin, and it melts them. And so they got accused of making a pesticide and using it without a license, even though it was a nourishing thing for the tree. So the story for this is absolutely incredible. Like I said, I don't want to ruin it. You should check it out. Todd Salemi, Organics Alive. And then the capstone of that story, where you get the how-to, really comes from later on, when Ron Whitehurst of Rincon Vitova, in his video where he talks about using the chitin-based pupates and dead bugs to make compost to control and manage bugs. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can go about this. So some people are literally anaerobically digesting like polysaccharide mushrooms. So they're like polypore mushrooms, excuse me, that they're digesting, like the conchs, the woody polypore mushroom conchs. They're digesting those anaerobically for like a month in water, and it's nasty. But then that is actually digesting chitin, because it broke down the mushrooms, which are chitin. So there has to be some chitin digesting bacteria or fungi in there. And so this is real. It's powerful. People are doing it, but they're Todd's is specific. Todd's is very interesting. He's using no manure, just earthworm castings. They're creating something that, using earthworms, vermicompost, that they're probably feeding it the chitin source, like insect frass or something like that. That's very common, that people will use that. And that is actually giving it the actual end product that can be then used as that spray. So it's really incredible. I highly recommend watching all those videos. And we'll cover this again and again and again. So yeah, I think I covered that. Live willow walls would work. I agree. Have you ever used pine wood mulch to mulch your garden beds? I use it in the rows, not in the beds, and I use compost tea on the soil. So I reset the pH and all that regularly, so that's never a problem, Gavin. All right. All right. Emanuela, that's such a good point. Yeah, so the thing is, you could start by digesting your pine wood mulch with fungi, like oyster or something like that, or King Stropharia, or maybe turkey tail, maybe. Let us consult the book. I love this, don't you? To be able to just look it up. So pine, reishi. So wow. So conifers, King Stropharia. I think I've seen some people with pine with certain types of oyster that have been trained, but the reishi is representing. So reishi is really good, really, really powerful stuff. So yeah, and then there's an even bigger list in radical mycology. All right, so there's a lot of possibilities for what you can inoculate your pine wood with, um, but yeah, I would totally inoculate it, or just IMO inoculate it, and then from there I would use it. Yeah, it's so scary though that we can't. I mean, there's still proof that we can recycle metal and glass, but there's no proof that we can recycle plastic any longer. Um, and then the whole compostable plastic thing is even more crazy. Like, I hope that you all saw that video on that. So we have to just like get off the plastics, and then you all have seen like the studies on plastics, right? Like the fact that plastics leach into our food from the row covers, from the greenhouses. That's why starting things in a greenhouse is like okay, but then transferring them outside and then cleaning them up and growing them out makes a lot more sense than eating the food from inside the greenhouse because there's plastic on it. And plastic, releases, things that are like fake estrogen. So women's bodies try to use that, the BPA and phthalates and all those kinds of things, uh, and it's not good at all. It's really really bad, and then it also affects men too. Yeah, it's like we're taking hormones, fake hormones. So it's really negative, that our plastics are all leaching, and that yeah, we really need to take charge and clean things up. And I think a lot of that has to do with just go reducing and reusing, just going as much as possible zero waste, buying things that last, buying things that don't break easily, or if they break, you can recombine them, like glass. I think glass is the future. So in many ways, you know what I mean? I think that making sturdy glass bottles and just reusing them instead, like they do in Europe, instead of breaking them down and destroying the bottle and then reheating the whole process up, to reform it. In Europe, they never did that when I was there visiting, um, in the 90s. So yeah, we could totally readopt that. There's nothing wrong with that. Um, yeah, nature connection mentoring. Monique, this is such a good idea. This is this is such a critical issue. Okay, so we need to have people understand that everything needs to be relationship based. So if you really want people to care about nature, you need to have them love it. So that needs to be a relationship. So that needs to be they need to get involved. And some people they need coaching and help because they're afraid of nature. They're afraid of the wild. They've been taught that those are scary things that need to be sterilized or controlled. And we need to teach them that it's the best thing ever. And we need to participate it and spread it further. So Monique, I'm really, really, really excited. And you're in Wales. Oh my word. So the reason I can't really grow facial hair is because of my Welsh blood. I am from a lot of the British Isles. Primarily I'm Welsh and Irish though. So so yeah, that's where my blood comes from. My family comes from. That's why this just grows like this, and I never shave here, and I just nothing ever happens there, really. Or at least that's what my dad always told me. Yeah, no, I've been to Wales. My brother lived there, I think for about a year. Um, and yeah, it's that's awesome. I really would love to visit there. And Wales has also just gone fossil free by, they've decided to go fossil free by 2020, I believe, something like that. Could be wrong with exact numbers. Numbers, I often need to like look them up because it's like I'm dyslexic with numbers, not with words. And with music, I always would flip things backwards and forwards and play them backwards. And so uh, numbers just tend to do that for me. So I always like to check things. But that's really exciting. So lead in Wales, because Wales needs that leadership. And I'm really, yeah, that's awesome. Do you know John Young? He's awesome. John Young, it sounds really familiar. You'll have to message me a link. Can you speak Welsh? No, I can't speak Welsh. I probably could remember how to speak French if I took the time. Je parle un peu maintenant, mais j'ai oublié trop. So my brother lived in France for a little bit of time. My wife is the one that's like really the language person. She's very comfortable going to other countries and just like feeling out the language and starting to speak bits. And she just grew up moving 23 different times to different countries all over the world. So she's very good with language. For me, if it's written down, I can start peeling it apart and apply my understanding of Latin, and then the Romance languages all connect to me when I can see it. But yeah, no, I don't speak Welsh. So yeah, and speaking of French, the French translation of PS1 has been done for a long time. I just haven't had the moment to do it, and hopefully this winter I find the time to do it. I just need a couple days. And that sounds crazy, right? It sounds crazy. You've had a couple days, and no, have not had a couple days. Not yet. Almost there. So I'm getting there. And so I'll have that out soon, hopefully. So looking for land here, I think in 2030, Matt, do you know about Well-Being of Future Generations Act? Is that the one where you can have access to land if you can make the land better? If so, that's super cool. I know that there's a lot of really cool programs that are starting up all over the world, and Wales is trying to do a lot of them. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm sorry about the microphone. And thank you so much for the questions, the participation. Oh, wow. Sweet. We have a lot of people who love Wales. I love it. So thank you so much for participating. It's always so fun when everyone participates. And when we're fully connected like that, where I can see the comments and everything, it really allows for a good interaction. So thank you so much. And if you continue to have questions, throughout the week, just keep adding them to the course and I'll answer them. Discuss things in the group as much as you want. I don't check into Facebook as much as I used to. I'm focusing more on answering all the questions inside the course and letting other students and past students and teachers who are inside the Facebook group field a little bit more questions, and take some of those questions that you would be also asking inside the course and answering them in different ways. And that's great. That's awesome. I want both of those things to be happening. But just so you know what I'm doing, what I'm focusing on, and so that's where I'm at. I'm focused on finishing up the teacher's guide, actually, to go along with this right now, as I'm reshooting Regenerative Entrepreneurs and Educators and trying to finish up 2018 really strong. And I hope that you are feeling like you're right there, really going to finish that cross that finish line strong at the end of the year. Because and if you don't, use the next 25 days to strategically decide what would make the end of the year strong and launch you in 2019. And I know that seems like I'm tangential and everything, but it doesn't matter which course you're in, doesn't matter, where you are in your life. This will help you launch into the next year with greater intention, joy, and just overall feeling of satisfaction and connection. So I highly recommend taking the time to reflect and to prepare yourself to finish this year strong and start the next year really strong. And to that effect, just so you know, we have a live Q&A next Friday, 1 p.m. That's week 6 live Q&A. And then the week after that, starting the 17th, that's our integration week. So that's our catch-up week. So that's going to allow everyone to get a breather, everyone to catch up on videos and get caught up so that when we come back the 31st, see, that's integration week, and then it's a week off for the holidays so that I can take a week off from doing everything, which is totally wild. I've never done that. I don't think I quite did that with other courses. But anyway, I'm going to do that now. I think we all need a week off, but we'll have the integration week, then we'll have a week off, and then we'll have New Year's Eve beginning with the videos. And so sometime that week, you can watch the videos. And then we will start the new year together. And that will be week 7. So I'm really excited about this transition. I'm really excited about this next few weeks and getting a lot of these things finished. I'm going to be finished the reshoot, the teacher's guide. I'm going to be, I've got the Forgotten Food Forest all set up and ready to work on. So I'm going to be working on that a little bit, working with my kids on that. But I'm also going to be taking time to reset, recharge, reignite, rekindle all my passions, get my wife really healthy. And a lot of that's, slowing down and not working so hard, and just spending time and just having that time be warm and joyous and just loving life. And yeah, I cannot wait to talk more about what's going on because yeah, the healing vibes, the prayers. People are praying for my wife all over the world. And I've been getting information from many of you about things that are possible, things that we could do. And it would take, over 20 minutes to describe what we are doing. And so, yeah, I just can't wait. Yeah, there's amazing things that have happened this week. So I got a little frazzled today, and that's why the technical difficulties, I think, mounted. But yeah, things are really, really exciting. Things are really exciting right now. And I really feel like after my interview with Charles Eisenstein and after a bunch of new research that I'm doing, I really feel like all the hope, all the enthusiasm and optimism that we can muster is not enough to match the actual positive possibility of what we can do. So there's no disappointment. We need to just put all of our hopes and dreams and emotion and excitement and enthusiasm into this basket, this regenerative basket, because it will go way beyond anything we can put in there. It will give back tenfold, hundredfold, thousandfold, exponentially, socially, earth, the future, children, animals, plants, soil, all of it, the healing. And you all see that. You all see that now. You see the possibilities, but they're going to start exponentially rising as we go through the course. And I've got more things to add than the videos that are in this course. I'm adding more videos because as I can't stop studying. For me, people wonder where I get my energy from, my enthusiasm from. I get it from learning. I get it from solving real problems in my life, in everyone's lives, things that will really affect the world. So I've got, of course, new things to share, new things that I'm going to be sharing in the live, new things I'm going to be sharing in new videos. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, we've got those Mexico videos, those bonus videos that are still on their way that I've got to edit. I've got to work on those as well. We've got a lot of translating to do. So I've got, I think it's 5 hours of transcribing from Spanish to English to do. So that's a little bit of work there, but we're going to do it and get it done, and we're going to put those out. So don't worry about that. That's coming too. And speaking of soil in regards to that, maybe I'll finish with that. Yeah, maybe I'll finish with that because the soil with the chinampas is really rather profound. So what they're doing is they're not doing the thing where you're taking aerobic stuff and putting it on top, and then you're waiting, and then it's not aerobic, anaerobic, and it's suddenly aerobic, right? What they're actually doing is they're regularly aerating the canal itself. So they're doing paddles and scooping mud, and they're bringing it up, and they're constantly aerating the water as they go over the top, but they're also digging deep and aerating, adding oxygenated water into the bottom of it. So what's essentially happening is they're drawing up this soil that's been continuously disturbed and involved. It's not aerobic, but I think it's like facultative is what's going on, because it's got all that aerated water in there. And then they're bringing that up and they're planting directly in it. And they're taking dried horse manure and grinding with their hands over it and putting a dry skin that congeals right there and then. This is what they're doing. They're putting transplants directly in this soil. They're not waiting. It's not quite anaerobic like we think, like stinky, like no disturbance. It's being disturbed with highly aerated water. So what is happening, I don't quite know on not a molecular level. We don't go there. We're saying in the systems, the biology level, Matt. So I don't know what biologically is going and who is involved with that. So I want to get down there with a microscope and get down there and look at them and find out who is in there, and maybe take a sample of the dirt and send it to Elaine and see what's really going on. Because it's somewhere in between our understanding, and it's a spot where no one's really playing, and they've been playing there for thousands of years. And they're probably connected to the people that were in the Amazon that were doing the stuff that led to EM. So the pottery shards that were the thing that led to all the EM stuff in Japan. You know what I mean? Like there's all this research that I mean, EM, obviously they were experimenting and they discovered EM, right? And that was an accident. But this idea of creating this biology that you're partnering with and using it with your waste and using it with, it may have actually traveled up there. And if I can actually find facultative aerobes, facultative microbes, I should say, then we could show a correlation, perhaps a connection, and maybe that's what's going on. I don't know though, but I'm tickled by the possibilities. So I want to get down there. The video is as I described, except hours long, and they talk to him extensively. And Ricardo de la Chinampas has been involved with this for decades, and so there's just a lot of information still yet to come in this course, and to us as a community. And I'll continue to keep delivering the information, because the reason that my ebook I give away, and the reason I'm giving away so much information, I'm considering putting my K through 12 permaculture student online course completely on donation, so that anyone anywhere right now can have access to a 12-week intensive homeschool program that's set up for K through 12, and also set up so that they could repeat it several times at different age groups at different time periods. So like really, really, really possible. Oh man, Monique. It's over. It's after 1 a.m. Well, bless you so much for staying up with us. Thank you so much for all of you for hanging out. I'm going to sign off, take a little break, and then we're going to go and visit a local permaculture food forest friend of ours who has some food and some local food that we're going to be getting from her. Um, our site, here, as you can see, it is in development here in Washington. This is a site I'm developing for someone. So I'm erring on the side of paying it forward. And so I'm trying to not take as much food out of that garden. I'm trying to have it all stay in there as organic matter, chopping and dropping everything as possible. I've taken out some corn ears, you know what I mean? I've taken out some tomatoes, I've taken out some squash, but primarily I'm just chopping and dropping and leaving that in there and leaving food in there so the chickens and the ducks are constantly going down there and putting their manure directly and the fertilization happening directly there. And then I can go in there and spray EM on top of it, pickle that nitrogen, drop it down, have it become plant available. All those kinds of things can happen, but that's why I'm really focused on developing just the soil. I mean, I had massive changeover in my soil because it was hot in California. I'm talking is because it was hot, because I had that year-round climate, and because I kept feeding it. And so here it's cold. I can't keep feeding it because it would be rude to those microbes. You could just be like, I'm gonna just put you outside, and you're gonna like get frostbite, and you're gonna go dormant, and you know what I mean. And so yeah, the changeover is not as fast here as it was within the growing season. Right now, I want to see what's going to happen over the winter. But I want to add more organic matter to it to create more of a pack so that it stays warmer even in those layers. But yeah, I want to see how deep we can make the soil as fast as possible. So when we do leave here, whether it's this next spring or it's next fall, that we leave like the most soil possible, and that I leave knowing that I put the highest priority on giving them the most potential out of that site, which is the soil. So if you're ever working on something and you're like, well, what should I do? Am I going to feed the soil? Am I going to feed myself? Know that I've been there as well. And we really have to realize that when we invest in the soil, it's not ever a loss. It's always an exponential return. So you may go to a friend and eat off some of their food forest your first years, as you get established at a new space, because you're investing in your soil, so that when things are really strong, you know what I mean, that soil is really deep and everything, then it's bulletproof. You got no problems. Everything's great, and then you've got always have a surplus. You always have an abundance, and you can always share. And then that person who's establishing, you can help out. I really believe community really needs to be that answer to, people are like, well, how far along you are, in your permaculture site. It's like, well, how far along are you in your community? Because the thing is, it's like, you can only do a certain level alone on a homestead. And then you can only do a certain level with a spouse. And then you can only do a certain level with spouse and kids. Because at certain times it's like, but when you involve community, anything is possible. Anything is possible. So I really always want to leave that open to all of us and highlight that. If you feel like you can't do it all, don't feel bad. If you feel like I can do this, but I don't know about that, that's okay. That's okay. We don't have to do it all. This course is not an invitation to do it all. I don't do everything all the time. You know what I mean? I don't do everything all the time. I can't. No one can. That's why I've got other experts. That's why I go to other people's houses. That's why sometimes I do things for periods of time, seasons, and then don't do it until next season. That's why, it's really variable. And don't feel bad about that. And I think that the way we step in always to that next level is with community. So, and the same thing with the soil. It's like, how do we get to the next level in our soil? Well, we need that soil life community. I hope that this week continued to answer the questions that you had about soil and continue to feed your passion and your curiosity about what is possible, how we can partner with the soil and with life through the soil, and how we can find an abundance for ourselves, in our health, in our business even, and in our growing of food. I'm Matt Powers. Keep it regenerative. And I will be checking in with you soon. I'll be looking at your questions. I'll be answering all those Kajabi comments, and I'll be getting a better idea of what you all need to get to that next level. Because every group is different, every person is different, and everyone's at a different place in their succession and progress and growth. And so that's what all these surveys are. That's why I consistently send them out. That's why I read them all. Because I'm getting a better idea of where you are and what you need from me to give you those answers. So continue filling out those surveys, continue having such a great time on the discussions in Facebook, and I'll try to get more over to Facebook. But yeah, try to just always comment in both spaces so that I can always get to it, because one comes to my email and the other does not. I get so many notifications on Facebook that I actually can't keep track any longer. I get so many emails now on Facebook that I can't answer them all any longer. Messenger and even my email now are just, they're active. And so I'm trying to just focus really on my teachers and you all answering those emails as much as possible. I don't have any administrators, so I have to do that all myself too. So I'm trying to really focus on just those things, letting a lot of social media go right now as I focus on our course with you all together. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively, and enjoy this next week. Peter McCoy's week is I think perhaps my favorite week in this course. Yeah, I mean, he created it, and I'm going to be adding more to this week. I want to do more on the inoculation, more on the growing, more on the cultivation, and that's to come. There is stuff in there. It shows you how to do it. I go over it absolutely, but I want to add more. So and there's so many things that we can do. Like right now, the paper digester that you'll learn about is now I've got it to the second stage where it's laid out in sheets and it's a huge giant pile. And now I've just got to put the wood chips on top of it. It's actually all EM'd to actually tie up all the toxins and the glues and the inks and everything. Yeah, it's gonna be cool. So I've got to videotape that, but it's been really rainy and cold, and I've been doing other things. So, but it's there, it's ready to go. So I'm going to be doing that to be the second part of the paper digester. I just have to get it done in time so that it is fully digested, so that when spring arrives, I've just got tons of dirt. And then I just transfer that to the garden, and I can test it and show what's in it, what's not showing in it, even though we know it is still in it. It's just tied up either in the colloids or something else. EM doesn't eat, doesn't destroy, doesn't magically make disappear any toxins, any heavy metals, or anything like that. It's trapping it somehow, and it's most likely through making colloids at a lower organic matter level than 45%, which is the typical threshold that we talk about. So, yeah. I may not have mentioned that in the videos, actually, because that occurred to me more recently during a live panel when I had two people discussing this, and one said it ate it, and the other said, well, it doesn't just disappear, it goes somewhere. And I was like, I know. You know what I mean? It was really fun. It just was like this epiphany moment. Actually, some of you might have been there. I know Ryan, I think Ryan Flesh was there, and he's a student in this course. So Yeah, there's a lot to this, and there's a lot that is consistently emerging. And as you learn the fun guy side to this, you're gonna probably have a few moments where you have to sit back and go, wait. And it's gonna be like epiphany upon epiphany upon epiphany at times because mycology is only a 70-year-old science, and the realizations we're having about fungi redo everything. It redoes everything. Same thing with quantum physics, right? It redoes everything. So yeah, wade into this and get ready because it's going to be fun and exciting and fascinating. So yeah, I'm just really excited. Thank you all for joining me. Um, yeah, obviously, I love talking to you. I really do. I love talking about all this stuff. I can't get enough of it. And I can't get enough of you all. And so I plan on eventually, in the next year or two, creating a live event in person for us as students. For us specifically as students, we have almost 600 students now. And by the end of next year, we'll definitely have over 1,000. So having a live event where we get together and you all present what you're working on. You talk about what you're working on, and it's like a community event, not like the typical, we go and we listen to the experts and they just, I mean, we already did that part, didn't we? That's what we're doing right now, right? Yeah. Let's get on to the next part. Let's get on to you being that leader and sharing, connecting with the rest of the students as just, another leader. And then we pass that around, let everyone be leaders. And those of us who have finished APSO, talk about our projects. And those of us who are in the midst of it, talk about what we're working on, what we're need help on. And we really facilitate some amazing changes. And I want it to be like a self-organizing system and a template so that we can start doing this everywhere. Yeah, I've got all these ideas. And a lot of it is because certain students, Sean Stanton, namingly, and Summer Hendricks, Shane Stanton, and others who have really talked about, how we can just create these essentially physical locations for the advanced permaculture student online to be taught, and then those people to be just inoculated with this information. So yeah, all these ideas are just percolating around all this, and it's going to be really powerful because all of you are also affiliates. You're 50-50 affiliates. Everyone that's a student is able to do that. So when you sell the course, you earn as much as I do, and it's just like we're equal partners, except with all that risk and that of the like actual legal partnership. It's through Gumroad, a transparent entity. We see it all. It's super easy. But the idea is that like we really start spreading this, and it's going to be incredible. So we all work together, we all help each other, we spread the information, we start building the regenerative economy, start making these solutions real, we start having these events, we start presenting these ideas, forming templates, going out and then having these events in our own areas as it becomes, so big that we buy a regional conference size, kind of things, but they aren't like a conference. Well, I guess we would go together, but the idea is that they would be ways that we would facilitate massive change. So it would be very different from normal conferences where it's like a direct instruction lecture. We're beyond that. You're beyond that. I mean, like that's where you're headed. Like you're already seeing what's possible. I can tell by the comments the way you guys are excited and collaborating and talking. All we have to do is create a structure, and you guys will whoop, and then we're off to the races. And when we design, I already see this all because it just all dovetails right up all the way. So I'm really excited about the future, about what's going to happen. And I'm so appreciative of you participating and being involved. So thank you. And I want to honor those of you just real quick before we end that are in your second time taking this course. those of you who re-enrolled because you wanted to know it at a deeper level, because you wanted that deeper fluency, that deeper confidence, so that you could really rock it, or you're retaking it because you love it so much and you want to see all those other people learn it for the first time and feel their excitement and participate in that newness and that excitement, because man, doesn't that feel good? That's part of the reason why I love doing it. So yeah, just thank you so much for being here. So many of you are so helpful, pointing out things, helping me co-teach. You really are co-teaching, really own that. And that's really what this whole, event idea is eventually in the future, is that we will all be co-teachers, co-creators, and it's going to be amazing. So I'm running out of my break time here before we have to go and meet this wonderful lady, who's yeah, I can't wait to have some of the food from her food forest that she's giving us. We're bartering a book for her. Yeah, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for participating, and let's absolutely make all of this happen. We have massive resources among us as a group to communicate to the world clearly what we envision, and we just have to start organizing and get that vision strong and get it out there, and it'll happen. I believe in you. I believe in what's possible, and that will keep growing and growing and growing as we go deeper into this. Thank you. Have a great evening and a great week.